morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful day outside. It's very chilly, which I'm not too excited about. I woke up, I was wanting beautiful hot weather, walked outside, and I was like, this is not spring weather. This is freezing weather, but it's beautiful out, and it's a beautiful day here today. We are excited. My first time doing the hot seat of the facilitator, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about our guests today, and I'm glad that you are here to be with us and to learn, because we've been talking about how his story, our stories tell his story, and we're going to continue that today. I want to remind you that if you would like to submit a question, we may not get to many questions today, but if you'd like to submit a question, you're more than welcome to. But you can also submit comments. So if there's anything you want to comment about what you're hearing, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can scan the QR code. You can submit something over our email, which is on the screen, as well as hand it to the usher. But today we have an exciting guest, and I'll get to them in a second because they are really, really good friends of mine, and I'm so excited that they're here, and I cannot wait for you to hear some of their story. But before we do, I want to read very quickly Psalms 66 and 16, and it says, "All who worship God, come here and listen. I will tell you everything God has done for me." And the scripture has made it clear that as disciples, we are to go make more disciples. And in the gospel, he tells us and all of his followers that we are to go. And in relations, that's sharing the good news of who he is, which is exciting. And the way that we like to do that is to tell our stories. Because one, we all have a story to tell. And two, you are an expert at your story. No one can tell your story the way that you tell your story. And so in this series, we've been celebrating all the tremendous stories of New Life, what he's accomplished, some things he's done in people's lives. And today is going to be no different. You're going to hear some pretty incredible stuff. And this is meant to encourage you. This is meant to challenge you. And most of all, just to remind you, everybody in here, that we are human beings that have all had an experience, and thankfully each one is so unique that we can learn something really cool from it. So today I'm excited to have with me, and if you'll help me welcome Chad and Kristen. And it's not easy getting up here. It's not easy sitting in what we call the hot seats, but thank you so much for being with us today, and we are excited to hear your story. So I am thankful that, and if you know anything about friendships, that we have developed a great friendship. I'm thankful for your friendship. I'm thankful that you're part of our church. And honestly, if you needed any kind of a confirmation that this was the church you were supposed to meant to be at, Chad and Kristen, I mean, do you need much more of a confirmation than that? That should have been just like an instant, this is where I'm meant to be. So we're going to kick this off this morning, and I just kind of want to know, I don't know how you guys want to do this, paper, rock, scissors, flip a coin, whatever, on who wants to go first, but we are going to hear a little bit about your story. So we'd like to have you give us a brief description, your perspective into your background, and how you have fully came to encounter God, and then we'll go into New Life. So who wants to go first?
I drew the short straw,
Okay.
and you took my line. So my parents, actually, they met in church,
Okay.
and I was born in the church, baptized in the church. But for various reasons that were adult reasons, we left as I was quickly approaching my teenage years. So although we left, my mom and dad, they made sure to keep God at the forefront in our home. Teaching us using world events, anything in our lives to insert a biblical lesson and instill in us. So my teenage years weren't in church, but still with God at the forefront in our home. And now it's Chad's turn to jump in.
All right, my story. So I was adopted when I was just a child, right out of the hospital.
Okay.
My parents got divorced at an early age, so I had very little guidance. I was raised by my mother. My mother battled depression. She was sick her whole life, in and out of the hospital. So I was pretty much on my own and going into my teen years. And in my teen years, I got into a lot of trouble, a lot of fights, drugs, drinking, stuff like that. And that was pretty much my story until I met Kristen. Then her parents took me in, and I started working with Kristen's dad pretty much immediately.
Okay.
And we would drive to each job, and he would have spiritual talks with me.
Yeah.
And he would plant these seeds every day. I might not have been ready to act on them, but
Right.
he planted them. And that's
Yeah, if
pretty
you know
much.
anything about Kristen's dad, that makes a lot of sense because she very much is a constant source of everything he does and talks about is God, and I love it. Every comment he can make, he goes right back to Scripture. He goes right back to godly things. So I'm going to go back to Kristen just real quick. So just to reiterate, you raised in church, new church, maybe not necessarily in the way that we think after a while when you left, but you were still being instilled the Word of God, and I love that about your dad. He's super sensitive to that and made it a priority in your family to make sure that that never was something that he went without giving you that. Church relation, you didn't really have a whole lot of church background.
No, not a lot at all. I have some memories of a little bit of church,
Okay.
but it was only getting dropped off, and the only memory I have is my mother would pick me up an hour late
Okay.
every time,
Oh,
every
no.
Sunday.
Oh, no.
So it really just
Yeah.
kind of.
So it didn't leave a good taste in
It
your mouth,
didn't. No,
definitely
it
of an
didn't at all.
experience of anything. And so very, very vastly different backgrounds, a lot of church, no church, adopted family, issues in the home as far as just relationships there. You said that your mother battled a lot of things. Did you have any other siblings that kind of helped, or you're just kind of mom and you on your own, basically?
Yep, just me and my mom. No siblings. My mom didn't have a big family.
Okay.
I think aunts, uncles, but they pretty much washed their hands of the
Okay.
situation.
And how old were you guys when you met? High schools?
21.
Yeah, Chad was 21. I was 18.
Okay.
So I was just out of high school. I met him at a critical age because if he would have been a little bit older, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, he was still at an impressionable age, a little bit older, but still at an impressionable age. So my parents, since being adopted, not having any family,
Right.
his mom wasn't really a parental figure. So my parents really kind of adopted him in. And
And I've heard your mom say that
Yeah,
if
I
you
was just
guys
gonna
didn't,
say
you go ahead. I'm
gonna
still in
say
your
that.
lines. You go ahead.
I know, stop stealing my lines. Yeah, she would tell me early on, like, because he would come to all the holidays and what vacations, family vacations, everything, and she would tell me, and this, she was so serious. If anything ever happens to the two of you,
Yep.
you're stuck with him because
right.
he's a part of our family. So
He was adopted immediately.
yeah, you better just make this work.
Yeah,
make this work.
they really took me in
Yeah,
from the
I
first
love
day I
that.
met him. That no judgment at all, and I mean,
Maybe a little bit of judgment.
if they did, they didn't
Right,
let
they
it
didn't
go.
make you feel that
Project it
way.
on us, no.
They
I mean, I
didn't.
had piercings all over my face.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
I looked like trouble.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
you were a
This
case. They
21-year-old
we're gonna help this guy. He's
Yeah. When he walked up my driveway, took a lot. I'm surprised they let me go with him. I'm going to be honest with you.
right. Well, they look deeper
really
than
am.
just what they saw on the outside. They saw
Yep.
probably the sincerity of your heart because genuinely you are one of the most genuine people I know, especially going through all you've went through. So they saw something a little deeper and they did not judge based off what they saw, which I think is incredible. Again, a testament to your mom and dad. To there may be something more we can do here. Awesome.
Yeah. So now us together, my dad and my mom, they still continue to plant seeds in us through our 20s. We were hearing it.
Yeah.
Were we following it? No. Our 20s were pretty much, that wasn't the focus
Right.
at that time. But all you need is a seed.
Right.
And it was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Even, it wasn't at the forefront, wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, but it was in the back of my mind all my whole 20s. And I would say, I've said this to Chad, like, I would say to myself, like, God, I'm not leaving you. Like,
Right. Right.
I'm out here doing my thing, but I'm not leaving you.
That's right.
But I'm glad that he brought me back.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. So yeah, that's pretty much our history.
Nice. So we're going to go on to, was there a specific event or something that happened that kind of took you out of that, okay, you know what, God, I've done my own thing long enough. We've been doing what we've been wanting to do, which is, I think, seasons that people go through. Was there something that happened that said, okay, now I need to make that change and I need to go back to that seed that was planted?
Yeah, so we got married in our late 20s. And after a few years, we realized that having a family wasn't going to be an easy thing for us. We actually struggled for many years. I'm not going to go into all the details, but we had a lot of stuff happen.
Yeah.
It was a really hard struggle, and it was something that was totally out of our control.
Right.
And I think it was the first real adult thing
Yeah.
that we were experiencing that we didn't have control over. And for both of us, in different ways, it was kind of our, like, we have to put our faith in something
Right.
higher because this is not a
Right.
a manly issue. So, so we started to put more focus into prayer. We started turning to God. Like, it was just kind of a natural course of action. It
Right.
wasn't anything where we were like, it was just something we really wanted, and we were having a really hard time with it.
Yeah.
And so prayer was kind of where we had to go. And
Right.
I know that this artist is kind of a conflicting, there's a lot of conflicting opinions about her, but she does have a song, Lauren Daigle, Trust in You.
Okay.
And the lyrics, if you ever listen to the lyrics, it really is a prayer.
Okay.
And it was something that it would come on the radio and I would belt it out as a prayer,
Yeah.
sobbing, like, I have to trust in you.
Right.
And so focusing on that, I was not realizing it, but looking back on it, it was my first act of growing my faith,
Right,
having to
right.
grow faith and trust him.
Outside of your mom and dad, outside
Right.
of mom and
Whatever,
dad were kind
yeah.
of instilling that. Now this is based off of
Yeah.
what they instilled in you. You were initiating that on your own.
Yes, correct.
Very cool. Very cool. So have you had much experience other than her dad at this point when you guys were?
Very little.
Okay.
No. That's pretty much when I introduced myself to prayer.
Okay.
Is through that whole situation. Pretty much, what do I have to lose? Just
Right.
pray.
Absolutely. At this
you know?
point, yeah. And was your mom and dad a big part of that process with you as far as just the engaging in the prayer and the faith and building that in you?
They were. It was kind of hard to talk about it, and they live in Niagara Falls, New York, so
Yeah.
or Western New York, and we're down here, so it was a very hard time. Like, when you're going through that, it's hard for the people going through it, and it's
Yes.
hard for the people that are around you watching you go through it, because they don't know what to say to you. You don't know what you want them to say to you. So
Yeah.
it was just, I don't know, it was just really weird. But I know that there was a lot of prayer,
Yes.
like a lot of prayer. My dad actually just told me when he was in the hospital, he actually made a friend down here. And because, he's always got to have coffee. So
Yeah.
he makes friends at all these coffee shops. And so we made a friend. And I didn't know this, but obviously you all know we ended up having Grayson.
Yes.
But when we went in for labor, it was a planned C-section for multiple reasons. So he planned to be here, and he told me when he was in the hospital that he met up with his friend that he
Yeah.
made down here because he wanted somebody here, because my mom was still working at the time. She couldn't be down here at that minute.
Yeah.
But they were on the phone praying through my C-section
That's
time.
awesome.
So yeah, there was a lot of prayer through our whole
Yeah,
journey. Like,
that
there,
one
a
thread.
lot of people were praying for this to happen for us. So
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's a
So
big
that
deal.
kind of established some unity among that inner part of your relationship of getting to know God. And what better way than through prayer? Even if you don't know a lot about him in the moment intimately, you're not even maybe going to church at that moment, but yet there was enough praying people around to say this is a major part of what we're experiencing. So when you transitioned into attending church, not having come from a church background at all, what was it like that first couple times going to a Pentecostal church? Because you were accustomed, you had been around, new, experienced, right? It had been a while, but you had been around. So you can tell kind of the different perspectives of what was it like that first time, and what was it that kind of stuck out to you, and then years of like returning to what you were used to.
So before he shares that, I'll just say that In the middle of that journey, we did for like a split second attempt another church in the area.
Okay.
It wasn't, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been right before this all started. We went for a while, wasn't a good fit for us. So
Yeah.
we just, I don't want to say it turned us off, but it just, I guess it kind of delayed us. Yeah. So his first experience was actually at a different church.
Okay.
Wild.
Wild.
I tried to prepare him, but like we did.
There is no preparing, right? Like,
It was overwhelming for sure.
I bet.
It was.
and you're a little bit more of a laid back person, so even more so, all
Yeah, I
the
was just
exuberance.
Kind of like looking around like, oh man.
Get me out of here, Kristen. What are we doing?
Yeah. But I think that all that time that those conversations he was having with my dad and like just stuff that was sitting with him,
Yes.
it didn't prepare him for the wildness, but I think it prepared him to absorb it and look past it, and to sit on it.
Right.
And I think God was just working on him
Right.
through that. Like it wasn't a turn off. He didn't run away and be like, forget this.
Yeah, yeah. I'm never going back again.
Yeah.
But you weren't like in a couple weeks running around and
I was not.
Nah.
No.
like I can totally embrace this. So he kind of paved the way of understanding that God obviously was what it was at work in that moment, not necessarily what you saw, but you knew that God was real. So what was your kind of approach to just knowing who God was and feeling his presence in those moments, even though it might have been a little different? Did you feel that you definitely encountered or could feel his presence in those first times?
I didn't at first. It was. I didn't feel much at
Yeah.
first, but even slowly, I did. I started to feel
Yeah.
a little something. Not when I got here. That's when I really felt everything.
Gotcha. So how long before like the other church to coming here was there like a gap there?
Yeah, it was several years.
Okay.
So it was several years, and when we went back, it was like I appreciated the preaching. It felt like my spirit felt happy to like hear the word 'cause I hadn't been
I
in
love
church.
that. Yeah.
Now I've been to other churches with like friends or for different various events.
Yeah.
They never felt right, obviously. They never did. And so going there, although it wasn't an overall good fit for us, it felt good
Yeah.
to hear the word, like, and to just to be in the there was a presence.
Yeah.
And that it felt good. My spirit definitely resonated with it, and I knew that it was something that I wanted to continue.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't the time or the place.
Time. So tell us about your first encounter coming here. How was that?
So after we attempted that church, we had Grayson, and I kind of want to share how that unfolded.
Absolutely.
So we had Grayson, and we knew at that having him, like I prayed through our pregnancy, we're going to this is a miracle.
Yes.
It really was, and it reminded us that we had humans helping us, we had doctors helping us, but God was ultimately the one in control.
I love that.
Because it just wouldn't happen without
Right.
him. Grayson was our only. So that pregnancy, I'm like, I'm not in church, but this baby's dedicated to you.
Right.
Like I'm
Right.
raising him, like
love
he's
that.
going to
Yeah.
be a man of God. So that sparked us to reach out to a couple at the other church that we did befriend. We hadn't talked to them in a while, and it was kind of at the beginning of COVID. So we did a virtual meeting with them once a week. It was just a little Bible study,
Okay.
just to kind of get our feet wet again and get our mindsets right. But then Chad was working at Cintas, and that's how this came about. So we just kind of wanted to share because I do feel like God led us, and
Yes.
all of this happened to lead us
He
here.
was intertwined in all of it. I love
Yeah.
it.
So I am not a big Facebook person at all.
Okay.
I go on it maybe once a month. That's maybe for birthdays.
What's wrong with Facebook?
I was working at Cintas, and I happened to just open up Facebook, and you know how they give you friend suggestions?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I was friends with, it was the Strites. I was friends with them on Facebook
Okay.
from going back when we were
Yeah.
attending their church, and it said, I think it said you as friends with Daniel.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's fun. I work with this guy. I never talked to Daniel,
Wow.
not once at
Yeah.
Cintas. I was there about a year, and I would always see him there, and I was
Well, we're
like,
gonna
oh.
have to get on to Daniel about that. He was
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding.
I was like, huh. So that's how I struck up a conversation with
Okay.
Daniel, and from there that was
Wow.
the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came home and he was like, I think that there's a guy I work with. I think he attends a church like around here.
Yeah.
And after he struck up the conversation, Daniel obviously invited us here, and I'm like, okay, let's go try it out. And walking in, it was February 14th.
I think we all remember. Go ahead. It was a
Church
notorious.
was great. I'm
Yes.
like, this is a good place. I felt very good. I
Yeah.
felt at home immediately. Like,
Good.
that is so true. I did. The preaching was great. The connections were great. My spirit felt fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then we left and got a call on Monday
From Daniel.
that Daniel had COVID.
That Daniel had COVID. Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody else, yeah. Oh, actually, he sent us the voicemail. I'm like, that's great. So every day, Chad would call me. How's Grayson? How are
Yeah.
you? Are you sick? Do you have any symptoms? And if you know anything about Chad, he's like not down with sickness. Okay?
Right.
So Thursday rolls around and Grayson is sick.
Yes.
And I did not want to tell him.
Right.
But I took him to the doctor. I didn't take him to the doctor. I'm like, he's just sick. But then by Saturday, I was sick. And it was COVID. So we were like, we're never going back there again.
That was a one and done. They said in
We're
our
done.
super spreader section. Yes.
It was good till
And
it wasn't.
Literally spread through the whole church. Yes, that will forever be in bed. I'm like, oh my word, they were so awesome. There was a first Sunday here, and we left you with a little extra,
Yeah.
that
Thank
Sunday.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
We shared Jesus and a couple
And
germs.
COVID. It was great.
And we prayed very hard that you would come back, and thankfully, you
Yeah. Well, we were planning on it. We did it for a while.
did. Yeah, yeah.
We were just making sure it was all out of here.
Yes, yes. So what would you say? So you came, you experienced, you felt at home, which I love to hear that. I think that that is a testament to our people, that they made you feel at home personally, hopefully with the connections of just talking, but also that we have an atmosphere where God can touch you the way you need to be touched. Because you were saying how he's intertwined in every one of these decisions through all of these major life changes. And with that, he's confirming to you, I haven't left you, I'm not forsaking you, I'm here with you. And then that gives you that confirmation, hey, we're on the right path and that we're where we're meant to be. So what would you feel would be one of the things that you would tell us when you finally made that decision? Was there something that you had to kind of, we're definitely doing this now, we're committing to this? A big challenge that maybe you faced when making that decision, or was it a pretty easy decision that now's the time?
I think we did know now was the time. We were at a place. Like, I'm going to tell you, if he met Daniel like 3 years earlier,
Yeah.
it would have been passerbys. Like,
Right.
it wouldn't have sat. We just weren't at a place for it to sit the way that it did
Right.
that time. So it definitely was timing. But coming here, like I said, it felt good to hear the word there. It felt really good here. I knew the first time that we were here, like we were in a place of truth.
Yeah.
My spirit felt like happy. And I believe that when you're surrounded by things that are ugly, like your spirit knows it's ugly. And when
Right.
you're surrounded by things that are good, it knows that it's good. And I knew that this was the right place for us. But I think I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What was the question?
Just was there anything like a challenge or a hurdle that maybe to make that decision, anything you felt was kind of hindering you, or was it just we're doing it and we're not going back from that?
I think we're both in agreement that we were doing it. And like I said, if it were earlier, not. And I will say that not only for us, Grayson did play a big factor in that, because now we had somebody else to
Right.
think about their future, their salvation. So
Right.
we were pretty much a go.
And the timing. You can go ahead. You have something to say? No. You got
For
something.
me, it was no doubt.
Yeah.
Like I just love the atmosphere. The people, everybody here was not overbearing.
Yeah.
Like the other church we attended, just like in your face.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is the message for me. I can understand the message every time.
I love it.
And I couldn't do
Yeah,
that at the
yeah.
other church. Like, very good. I understand it.
There you go. He does. Yes, he does an awesome job, and we're thankful for our pastor. We're thankful for him. Yeah, the Chads United.
They're Chad Allens.
Not just Chad Allen. Like, what are the odds? I think that was one of the things that stuck in my mind. I'm like, what? Daniel's like, this is Chad and Kristen. I'm like, what did you just say? Like, come again. I thought he was introducing us, like our names to you. Like, what are the odds? That's so crazy. And I want to just kind of ask, I guess it's just a bounce off questions, not really on here, but just in your pursuits, do you feel that since making that decision, you've grown? Like, what are some of the things you've experienced as a family with Grayson, growing in the church? Is there anything that you would like to share that making this your home, like, how has that changed your life in some ways?
Well, I think it just gave us a different perspective. We're living for something completely different now, you know. I think it changes our family dynamic.
Yeah.
Changes the way we are with Grayson. Everything about him, like, we talk so much just about God in general.
Yeah.
That he talks about it all the time too. Did God make this? Did God make that?
Yeah,
Is God,
I love that.
Like, he goes back to it in his own simple way, but it's on his mind all the time too, and he talks to other people about it. And
I love that.
So, you know, as more time goes on, the more that's our family dynamic is evolving in that way, you know, as we speak. So
Kind of coming full circle from what you had experienced, and now you have an opportunity to change your past and bring that into his life, and to make that a staple for him, which I think is incredible. If you're obviously coming to church, coming to something new and exciting, it can just be for observing, and it sounds like you went a little further than that and establishing yourself. If there was something that you could give advice to, if you could give advice to any new Christian or someone that's coming back, someone that's never experienced before, what would be some things that you would tell them or share with them about having a relationship with God, connecting yourself to a church?
So we thought about this one for a long time, and honestly, like, there's been great people sitting here before us this month, and I liked what they said every time, but I really do feel like you do have to give it a chance.
Yeah.
I think you get out what you put in,
Right.
And if you go in open-minded and with an honest heart, that, you know, God will speak to you and move on you.
I love that. Yeah.
When it's
just
your
be willing
time,
and just be open to the experience, because you don't know where he's going to lead you and what he's going to do for you. And if you come in closed up, then you might miss something.
Right.
Yeah, I would say just be patient and just trust.
I love that. I love that. We did have one question that came in kind of based off of your guys' experience. What would be some advice that you would give your son in the future based off of this? So based off of being in the church and not being raised in the church, is there something that you hope to pass down to Grayson of what you've experienced and how you've grown in God?
I think for me, like, I want to pass down, I want Grayson to know that, like, his parents have a level, and actually I said this in the hospital as well, like, my parents are very faithful, and they've had a lot of obstacles and a lot of their own journey, and they've maintained their faith through it. So I want Grayson to walk away or grow up knowing that, like, he could look at me and think the same thing.
Right.
I just want him to have, like, an eternal love for Jesus. I want him to grow just walking with him and knowing that Jesus loves him.
Yeah. I love that. I know you had mentioned that you definitely through your teen years, you kind of sowed some wild oats and did all the things and experienced all the things. Would there be something that you would advise him in that direction of preserving him from that and keeping him from that? I know I put you on the spot, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I told you I wouldn't put you on the spot, and I just did.
Little help.
Well, let's put it this way. So again, just any kind of advice
Yeah.
to your son. What if you had one opportunity to give him any kind of advice? It doesn't have to be anything deep or revelatory. What would you say to him to just encourage him in the change that you've seen in yourself? This is why it's worth it.
I would probably tell him things are not always going to go your way.
That's right.
Life is tough.
Yeah.
Just trust.
I love that. I love it. That's exactly what you need to do because it doesn't always go your way. You don't always know the answers. You don't always have the answers when you're trying to even have a baby, when you're trying to figure things out. And I love the two things that you guys have mentioned, that prayer was woven in between all of that, and that was your foundation. And then trusting that ultimately he's going to be with you. Someone did make the comment to be thankful for the reminder of power of praying parents. So thank you for that. They're thanking you for that. So thankful for another amazing Chad and Kristen. Right? And if we get any more Chads and Kristens, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, if the preaching wasn't so great, like when we walked in and we met you guys, we're like, if we go to a church and it's Chad and Kristen, how can a Chad and Kristen not go to Chad and Kristen's church?
I want to know, like, if you need a confirmation, that is a confirmation, 100%. But I want to thank you for sharing your story. I know it's not easy getting up here. I know it's not easy sharing what you've kind of been through, but what a testimony. And I think that this just shows us that overflow because I watched your dad and your mom when he was in the hospital. What an incredible man, right? And you benefited from that. You benefited from many years of him just pouring that example into you, of him, no matter how he was feeling, the arm was all bandaged up, and he's just trying to raise it. I'm like, those are your worshiping arms, and like
Yeah,
he was
you
still
need
just
that.
raising it like I'm worshiping him, and I think that's an incredible testimony, a heritage that you guys have.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to share maybe about that and that experience of what that did for you? I know you were talking about watching his faith, unwavering. I mean, just I've never seen someone go through multiple surgeries in such a short amount of time and just positive, giving God glory, just never wavering.
Yeah.
And I know I told you personally, I was like, if I experience something like that, I want that to be my attitude.
Yeah. We agreed it would be hard to.
It would be very hard, and I don't know that I'm on his level,
Yeah.
but
It was really hard. It was very, it was really scary. I didn't know what was going on. He did go through a lot in a very short amount of period of time. When he got to the point where he could have more conversations with us, he did tell us that his faith never wavered.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to be fine. Like
Yeah.
he knew everything was going to work out just as it was supposed to. And those long weeks, like every time I would go up there to visit, he was talking about the nurse or the aide going through that, and he was still thinking about other people
right.
at that hospital. And he was so thankful. He was so thankful for the doctors and the medical staff and for God, like, because
Yeah.
God brought him through it.
Yes.
So it was.
I love it. Well, I am thankful that God saw fit to make you guys a part of our church and a part of our journey, and that we too can be a part of your journey. And this is what it's all about. Each one of us has a story. Each one of us is on the same journey. We want to make heaven our home. That's our goal, ultimately. And that's how we do it together, by knowing one another, doing life together, experiencing and growing together. So I'm hoping something was said today that ministered to you, that helped you realize that, yes, we do need to trust. Yes, we do need to pray. We need to have the faith, hopefully, that no matter what we're going through, that we will stay strong and focused, and that we consistently grow on this path, right? That's our journey. That's our path, is to continue to grow, to not step back, but to continue to step forward. So I want to thank you. Everyone, thanks for being here today. And we're not about, you guys did awesome. Whew, you can we're done. No. We are not here worried about how long we go. We just wanted to hear your story, and we thank you that you've shared that. So this means you've got plenty of extra time. Get you a coffee, get you a donut. My husband and I were just at Hardee's yesterday, and that was my fault because I didn't know what I wanted to eat, and we ended up going to Hardee's. And it wasn't that great, just so you know. It wasn't that great. I was like, and that's because I'm a female, and I can't make up my mind what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. I didn't express what I wanted, and then we ended up at Hardee's. But Hardee's has breakfast, all that to say, Hardee's has breakfast till 12 o'clock. So if you want to go down and get yourself a biscuit, by all means, you have time. But thank you so much for being here with us today. Come back here at 11:45.